Friends, welcome back to Continues to Tick. 2 weeks ago, we finally hit the 90K milestone, and the journey continues. Here we are now with the monthly dividend portfolio review for July, because crazy enough, here we are now in August, and you can't deny the fact that now we are closer to the very end of the year of 2024 than we are to the beginning of the year. It's crazy to imagine, and I just feel like I was literally back in January going to Tucson with my partner to go get crystals for her business. And now here we are in August. And I remember at the very beginning of this year, I was still working at the prison, having to go in person, and now I get to work from home, and I'm now in the career trajectory that I've been wanting and desiring for a while. And thankfully for me, it wasn't an empty desire. I went back to school to get my master's degree, graduated last year. Time continues to pass. Time continues to pass, friends. And that message right there is the whole point to this channel. Because you, me, whoever you know, we all have the same amount of time. And as long as we're here breathing, moving, living on this earth, we need to use it. We need to look ahead while simultaneously thinking of the present moment. But that's the hard part, isn't it? It's hard to think of the future, be present today, and think of the present moment. But regardless, friends, we try our best. This is why, hopefully, over time, you've seen this story unfold, and you could see that it can be done. That just planning for the future and thinking about it, having it kind of happen in the background is one way to do it, right? You set it and forget it when it comes to your retirement strategy. That is my play here. I have a plan, I have a vision, and we're just letting time pass. And honestly, just by allowing time to pass, I'm slowly executing on my plan because the plan is already being implemented. And sorry for the ramble, but I get passionate. I hold my voice for 2 weeks. I make these every 2 weeks. But if this is your first monthly dividend portfolio review, there's a high chance that it might be. I saw quite a bit of people join the journey from my last upload. If that is you, I'll explain what happens in this video, but it will be similar to the milestone videos that we do. We just go a little bit more in depth. Every other week, we do just a normal topic video with just a very simplified view of the portfolio. But for today, friends, portfolio update includes how much I fund my portfolio and how often. I'll go into my sector allocations and percentages, along with showing you my best and worst performers per each sector. I also tell you my number of current holdings, my current dividend portfolio's yield, and what is my expense ratio, as well as telling you some of my short and long-term plans for the portfolio, and of course, how much my dividend portfolio currently pays me in dividends. And then the topic for today's video, friends, because I got some really good news, especially if you've been here with me through the journey. I started this channel a little bit past, starting my work at the prison. And for those that don't know, when I say working at the prison, I work as an RN, and I worked for the state prison system of California, the state government. And I knew when I would work there, I'd get a pension, right? So I got some news for you guys, and that's going to be the topic for today's video: why I always wanted a pension. So now we're currently sitting at $90,770.82. And this is on the all-time charts. It looks like if I wanted to buy anything with margin, M1 would graciously give me $59,000 to play with. They're so kind. Sure, it's tempting sometimes, but I like to forget it. The set it and forget it strategy don't make my life any more stressful than it needs to be, and make it stressful in other areas, right? Go to individual therapy, go to couples therapy, start a YouTube channel called Male Nurse Mentor, maybe try to do a little business out of that, and elevate and get promotions in my job. Like that's, and honestly trying to find ways to feed my dog sometimes. I got 2 now at the same time. That's how I make my life more stressful. We got dividends earned of $6,107.41. We got a market gain of $19,268, and I don't even touch the money weighted rate of return. Let me show you this view over here instead. When I go to my holdings, here's my cost basis, $70,664. The value of my portfolio is $90,000, as we saw. So this means I have a 28% gain of the portfolio, $20,106.22. That is my overall return. That's pretty good. I am content with that. Get some gains, increase my portfolio in size, funding it every single week, and then by also getting gains, but then also getting dividend payouts, and then dripping those dividend payouts, which is what I currently do. If you're curious, I do still drip, and I will continue to drip until the day I retire. That's the plan. And because we're here, and because I've been dancing around the topic, I do currently fund $100 every single week into this dividend portfolio. That has been my minimum lately, and I don't want to dip below that. That is where I'm at. Hopefully in the future, as I increase my income, getting my next job promotion, right, that I really want, I'll be able to increase that. But $100 every single week, times the 52 weeks in a year. So doing the calculations, actually, it's $433 a month. That's what I meant. $433 a month. Let's go back to the portfolio here. So I have it broken down into 13 slices. These are my 13 allocations. If you're ever curious and you want to look into exactly what I'm holding, there's a link in my description box. If you click on that, you'll be able to see what I hold in each of my sectors, like my tech, my real estate, consumer staples, all for example. So let me set these by largest to smallest. So my largest sector is real estate at 13%. Consumer staples is at 12. My ETF is 10. Index fund is 10. My tech sector is 10% of my portfolio, and so on and so forth, going down, right? Utilities 10%, financials, industrials, healthcare, communications. And I do have at the very bottom 1% consumer discretionary. I show it. I'll tell you this time it's McDonald's. It's the only one I have in there. And it looks like as far as my best sectors, tech is giving me a 346% return, followed by energy 117%, financials 105%, and then my worst performer is actually healthcare, which is actually doing slightly better. It was doing worse before. It's negative 6.58%, down $231. And there's a pretty big gap between my worst performer and my second worst performer, which is still in the green, my consumer staples. This is the one that actually held Walgreens, and it was dragging everything down for the longest time. I actually sold Walgreens not that long ago and then split it amongst all my other 5 holdings in here. And ever since then, of course, it's done better. So my best performer is Nvidia. If you guys have been here for a while, you know that I've been holding it for a while, probably since the very beginning. It must be. I don't remember not having it from the very beginning of this portfolio. And right now I have 84 shares at an average price of $13.35. So as you know, I've been through 2 of the stock splits already, and I've just gotten more and more shares. So I've bought in at a really good time. Literally, I haven't dripped into this. I haven't bought any more since a long time ago, because I've had this dividend portfolio for 4 years now. For 4 years, and I've just held Nvidia. So it's giving me the biggest return, as you can see here. And then my next best performer is Exxon with 139%, Aflac 99% return, and so on and so forth, all the way down to the bottom. So my worst performer is UGI, Medtronic, Verizon, Pfizer, Comcast. We can't always be 100% in the green. All of these are being held for certain reasons. Let me show you guys my activity section here real quick. Let me show you guys. So I do fund my portfolio $100 every single week. And as you can see, whenever I fund or get, enough dividends back in, I drip them, with the payments. So every single week I fund $100. On August 1st, for example, I got paid dividends, $16.58. Verizon, same day I got paid by AT&T, $15. On July 31st, got paid by JP Morgan Chase, $14. And all these green ones are my dividend payments here coming in. And let's go back here. So how much we fund? So $100 every single week, about $433 a month. My sector allocations, I told you those, my best and worst performers. So let's get into the data a little bit, and then we'll go into the short and long-term plans. So here we are in the Jesse's cash flow portfolio. This is where all the good data is here. So as you saw earlier too on one of the other screens, and you see it here as well, I do have 50 holdings in this portfolio with a current dividend yield of 2.981%, and my expense ratio is 0.01%. Just to touch on a little bit on the dividend yield, it's pretty average, I would say, not even low. My lowest is around 2.8, and then my highest that I feel comfortable holding is maybe like 3.4. As long as it's anywhere between 2.8 and 3.4%, I'm chilling. I'm totally fine with that. Anything too high, I start to get concerned. Anything too low, I'm just like, man, this progress is like, this paint, yeah, it takes a while to dry, but like it's still wet. It's been wet for so long. So like anywhere in between there is the sweet spot. So that's the data of my portfolio. And as we continue to go down here, so my current short and long-term plans for the portfolio. So we do talk about career development here, right? This journey here has been unfolding for a while. My primary source of income is my career. It is my nursing job. And, that I do touch on. So more recently, I got my job promotion that I've wanted. It required a master's degree to get it, but I do get to work from home now. And I do have the flexibility to work from home, which now allows me to put more mental bandwidth and energy into my male nurse mentor brand. So I'm hoping to do something with that on the short term, maybe create a website. So if any of you guys listening are interested in nursing as a career, or you're trying to pivot into it, you're a pre-nursing student, come find me. I got you. I'm sure I can give you something of value. So apart from my career on the short term, this portfolio in the short term is just going to continue status quo. $100 every single week is the plan. And that's because when I got this current job promotion, I actually had to take a pay cut. It sounds bizarre, but it's true. I had to take a pay cut. It's about $24,000 of a pay cut to get this job. But for me, it was worth it because it is truly taking one step back financially to take many steps forward. Right now I make about $110,000 being a nurse working from home. The idea is to work this job for 2 or 3 years and then flip it for a job that has a runway trajectory to get me started at like 140 and work my way up to like 190, which would be magnificent. Like that would be insane. Like that's life changing, right? So I'm on my current path to do this. So until these 2 or 3 years pass, I probably have to take it pretty easy, but I won't stop, right? That's going to be the key. That's going to be the key for me at this point in time. Don't stop. Invest $100 every single week. And for the long-term plans, what are those? Those I pretty much keep very solid in place. It is the mountain in my horizon. Retire by the age of 52 or 50. Now it's technically 52 because I switched my nursing job in the state of California to a different one. So now I have a different formula. But my earliest retirement age with my pension, with my medical benefits, would be 52. If I could somehow find a way to expedite that, I will. But at least today, I know when I turn 52, that's going to be the year I will retire. And I can also say, in addition to this long-term plan, is continuing to fund this dividend portfolio and aiming for the goal that when I retire, it will be over $1 million, right? I've done the math. I've used, dividend calculators. Even at this pace, I am on pace to get to where I want to go, which is a $1 million plus dividend portfolio. All right, friends, you guys waited for this part here. We'll talk about it now. How much my dividend portfolio currently pays me in dividends. And if you're trying to get to it, so it's in holdings here. You go to holdings, dividend income, boom. And then I do the next 12 months. But this is, something new. So it's saying I have a total income projected to be $2,422.38. So let's see. Well, last week, right, or 2 weeks ago, we actually had dividend income of $2,500 because we were talking about, yes, we reached the $2,500 mark, but it looks like we actually dipped below it. I'm curious now how this plays out on my next 2 weeks, right? If not, we may have to go back to the div tracker because M1 Finance may still be getting their stuff together. Which is funny because apparently we've lost income, friends. We've lost income from our last 2 weeks. So maybe it took a while to restabilize, but it may make me now lean back into the div tracker. And you're seeing this in real time. This is the first time I've seen it right now as well. So I'll be transparent and I'll let you guys know that, hey, I've been using their dividend income tracker here, and it's way different from where it was 2 weeks ago. So in 2 weeks, we'll see if it's even more different. If it is, maybe I'll start going back to the app. And as we continue to scroll down here, friends, we finally made it to the topic for today's video, which is why I always wanted a pension. And, I want to touch on some of these things. So the first thing, as you can see here, I got a list, the type of pension, the payouts, I'll be working anyway, foundation of stability. So I'm going to touch on these subtopics here. And then towards the end, I do want to talk about the cons. Like, what are the cons of a pension, right? If this is the first time you've heard of pension, because they're very rare, I wouldn't be surprised. Pensions are technically like a supplement you will eventually get in the future, whether it's from your employer, the government. I guess the government for me is my employer, and they give it to you in retirement, right? It's like a monthly check every single month, typically until the day you die or if it runs out. For me, I'm in a defined benefit pension plan. So that's the type of pension that I'm currently in. This one does mean that I would get paid every single month until the day that I die. It is defined and it is given to me. And that's the type of pension that I have. So let me backtrack a bit here. So why did I always want a pension? So for me, friends, I grew up and it was kind of hammered into me by uncles and family, to go work for the state of California. I reside in California, so they said, go work for the government like us, and they did. And for me, I was young and, it didn't really mean much, but over time, as I got older, it started to make more and more sense. I started seeing the people, right, the uncles and family that have told me to do that were doing pretty well, right? Like they were stressing a lot less. They didn't have to worry about retirement, it seemed. Like they knew exactly when they would retire, and they were just living life in a rather much more stress-free way, right? Because if you think about career and the workforce, you will continue to work until the day you can afford not to. If at all there is any doubt in your retirement, that's going to stress you out. But now imagine if you knew the exact day you could retire and the exact amount that you're going to get in retirement. Well, now you have a number. You have a set number, and then you can actually work harder on the side or do something else on top of it to now add more money to that number to really cushion yourself, right? So you're not blindsided. And I think when it comes to retirement, a lot of people get blindsided, right? So it's very stressful, right? A lot of people don't really think and know their retirement number until they actually get close to retirement age. For me, that started to become very valuable, right? As I was in nursing school, as I started to see this, when I graduated nursing school, that's when I was like, well, it just makes sense for me to go work in a state prison, and through that go work for the government, right? Which is what I wanted to do. I had an interest in law enforcement. Long story short, is probably one of the reasons why I went into the corrections world of things, right, to work as a nurse. So it was like a perfect fit. And I found out I was going to get a pension. I was like, oh, of course. I sought out those positions, and I sought out going to work for the state of California for the pension, because I knew that. I knew the benefit and the value to knowing when you're going to retire and how much money you're going to get in retirement. And then to get a check, right, through this every single month until the day that you die, right, is insane. Like that, to me, when I first heard it, I was like, that's insane. That to me, at that time, I knew it was worth its weight in gold. And now today, at the same time, I feel the same way. For me, when I was recently looking for a new job, I was very contemplated to go into the private sector, but I stayed on the public side of things, right, to work for the state government because of the pension, and I couldn't let it go. I kind of viewed it as like the ace, like my magic card that I had still in my hand, right? When other people don't have this card, I still have this card, and I just couldn't just give it up. So I stayed with the state, found a work from home job, took a pay cut to then eventually get a better job still working for the state, right? I could have left to go to the private sector to make more money working from home already, but I decided to stay. Because the biggest news to this all, right, which I want to share with you guys, is this month I'm going to finally be vested. I'm going to finally be vested this month, which means that I will now, after this month, be guaranteed a monthly check every single month until the day that I die. And oftentimes with a pension, it takes 5 years or so to get vested. At least here in the state of California, it does take 5 years, but you're going to get that check every single month until the day you die. And the longer you stay with the state, this is why it's called the golden handcuffs. They incentivize you to stay, right? Because the longer you stay, the better that check is. The longer you stay, the more it makes sense longer. So that's how they kind of get you, right? Because you won't find a better deal anywhere else, especially once you're vested and you kind of get many years in. So the type of pension, it's called a defined benefit pension plan. The payouts, these are going to be payouts that are going to happen every single month for life, right? There's a formula. So for me, at this point, now that I'm going to be vested, I'm trying to make a career out of working for the state government. I want this check to be the highest it can possibly be. So ways that to do this is you have to kind of work on ways to increase your formula, which is 1, the number of years that you work, and then 2, the income. So the number of years I have from now until the age of 52, right? And then my income, well, I'm working on that piece, but I'm trying to climb the ladder and get to a really comfortable nurse consultant gig that then, I can still work from home, have good flexibility, and make a lot more money. And then just to kind of ride out, my career. So the payouts are monthly. And then this is one thing that I wanted to touch on, right? Is this idea. Like why don't people want pensions? Well, I'll tell you why I wanted one. Another reason is I figured I would be working anyway. I'm going to be working anyway. If I'm going to work in the private sector or the public sector, and the public sector gives me a pension, sure, the private sector pays me more, but then I'm at will, right? Maybe not covered with the union, and the job security isn't really there in the private sector. Like, that's why people love the public sector, is this work-life balance and job security and pension. I chose that route because I figured I'd be working anyway. If I'm going to be working anyway, I'd rather get something from it. I can also do a 401k if I want it. That's pretty much the only thing the private sector gives you. The private sector doesn't give you a pension. So I figured I'd rather go to the side that's going to give me a check every single month till the day I die, because it gives me something to fall on if for whatever reason life happens and tries to take me out in some type of way, right? Like a stretch of bad luck, a stretch of bad choices. If something happens, right, I now have another layer to this guaranteed source of income. And I also don't know how long I'll live, right? If I do live a long time, the concern of running out of a 401k is always a concern. Even with the 4% rule, I think it lasts 20 something years, right? But if you retire early in your 50s, 20 years or so is like 70 to 80 years old. With a pension, I could retire at 50, and maybe I live to 100 and I have 50 years to cover. Well, the pension's going to cover it for me. They're going to cover my life. They're going to give me this check every single month until the day I die. And that could be from age 52 when I retire all the way to 105. I mean, I wouldn't probably want that, but they would pay me for that, and I wouldn't have to worry and stress about money, right? So these are things to just think about. And that kind of tied over into the foundation of stability, right? Is this sense of foundation being very stable, not having to worry about your check, not having to worry about money. And on top of this, if I do stay with the state, I believe it's 25 years, the same healthcare benefits I get right now as an employee in my retirement at the age of 52. So people say, hey, how are you going to pay for your healthcare if you retire early? Well, if I retire early at the age of 52, I don't have to worry about it. So those are some pros, and clearly I'm biased in this, but that's because I kind of chose this for a reason. I chose this route for a reason. It's one of those things that you kind of have to play early on. Later on in your career you could play it too, but it's different. For me, I don't see that much of an incentive to then work into my 60s. I see an incentive starting with the state early and finishing early, right before the majority of people do. But now I do want to talk about cons before I get way off track. Some of the cons is typically state jobs are going to pay you less because they take a lot of money out for the pension. And that's true. They do take out the money from your check every single month for the pension. Some people say, hey, I'm better off investing that on my own. I don't need the state to, invest that money for me and get a pension later. Like, I can take care of my own finances. And that's fair. I can't really argue with that. I think that does work for a lot of people. I would say even if I really buckled down and, thought about it, it would probably work for me better, right? If I take that money and invest it into something else. However, I'm very aware that time continues to pass, and because of that, life happens, and maybe it's just my mindset, maybe it's small, but life happens. Things happen. Things don't always go as planned. Life won't always go as planned. And for me, I'm going to work anyway, so I'd rather get a pension for just working anyway. And that's just the mindset that I have. Another con is the amount of time it takes to actually get vested, which is 5 years. That could be a barrier, but also the amount of money it takes to get your actual pension. So for some people, the earliest retirement age is 50, right? If you're a safety member, or it's 52 if you're just miscellaneous, right? Just anybody else. Like for me, I went from being a safety member working as a prison nurse to now miscellaneous. So now it's 52 because I'm working a very chill gig at home. So now it's changed to 52. For some people, that could be a con. I guess one of the cons that can really happen is, for whatever reason, you pay into this pension and it doesn't exist, right? It doesn't exist in the future, and that can be a real risk factor. Just how people are very concerned about Social Security being around. Everyone knows it's going to run out. Maybe the same can happen for your pension. You get to the end of your career and the state government's like, actually, no, we don't have a pension for you. And, sure, that'd be horrible. So, there's a couple cons with this, but I just wanted to touch the topic briefly because of the news that this month I'm going to finally get vested. And that to me is a really big deal, especially when it comes to my strategy for an early retirement and just for a nice, comfortable retirement. But that's going to be it, friends. Thank you guys for joining the journey this week. I will see you guys in 2 weeks. And as always, just continue with the plan, let time pass. And before you know it, progress will happen, right? Just as I always say, and I'll continue to say, consistency leads to progress leads to results, and the results are what people see. That's what you see as well. Until next time, friends, take care.